So, Exodus chapter 1, we'll start there in verse 8, where the Bible reads, "Now there rose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply and come to pass, that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them out of the land. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. The more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. The Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, which name of the one who shipwrecked, and the name of the other grew up. And he said, When you do the office of midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then you shall kill him, but if it be a daughter, then she shall live. So you can see here that they had to serve with rigor. That means they weren't just sitting in an office chair, they were working hard. Okay? And nothing against people that work in an office, I work in an office. But they had to fit, like bricklaying is not exactly an easy job, depending on the size of the bricks. Okay, when you're down low, it's not so hard, but once you got to start, getting them up, it'll be harder. And they had to make the bricks and all that, and they were serving with rigor. And the Egyptians were kind of scared of them. They didn't want them to take over or fight against them if they had war, and so they decided to kill all the men children. So not only were they serving with rigor, they had a hard time here, but all their men children were getting killed. So they had a tough time there when the Pharaoh died that knew Joseph. Okay, his second Pharaoh was not so good to them. Look at the second chapter, verse 23. And it came to pass in the process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage, and they cried, and their cry came up unto God by reason of the bondage. And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God had respect unto them. So they're groaning, they're crying unto God, they're asking God, please, to help them. Right? This is not a good situation for them. They're not having fun. So what I want you to remember is they had a bad time in Egypt, and they're asking God for help. And let's skip over to chapter 4, look at Exodus 4:29. Exodus 4:29, the Bible reads, And Moses and Aaron went and gathered together all the elders of the children of Israel. So God had already spoken to Moses and told him what to do. And look at verse 30. And Aaron spake all the words which the Lord had spoken unto Moses, and did the signs in the sight of the people. And the people believed, and when they heard that the Lord had visited the children of Israel, and that he had looked upon their affliction, then they bowed their heads in worship. Why did they worship? Why did they bow their heads in worship? They were thankful that God was going to deliver them. They were happy that God was going to be delivering them soon. And they were grateful. And the title of my message today is Be Grateful. Be grateful. And they were grateful here. Okay? But how long did it last? Let's look at chapter 14, verse 10. Exodus 14:10. In Exodus 14:10, this is God had already done all the plagues, and they had let the children of Israel go, but then Pharaoh decides to chase after them like it was actually a bad idea to let them go. Exodus 14:10. When Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid. The children of Israel cried out unto the Lord. And they said unto Moses, Because there were no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us to carry us forth from Egypt? Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, Let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. And Moses said unto the people, Fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show to you today, for the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, you shall see them again no more forever. So it didn't take very long at all. They just got going on their trip, and what the first obstacle, and then wish we had stayed in Egypt and kept serving the Egyptians. But they were crying to God. They were in bondage, they were in affliction. They wanted help, and God delivers them. He answers their prayer. But are they grateful? No. Do they understand that God can deliver them? I guess not, because although they saw all those plagues, those 10 plagues in Egypt, right? They saw the water turn to blood. They saw the frogs. They saw the lice. And then they saw the flies, and that there was only flies in Egypt, and in Goshen there was no flies. It was raining on the cattle. The Egyptians' cattle died, theirs didn't. Okay? And then the boils or blains. Boils is just like a swelling sore. Actually, boil, I looked up the word. It actually comes from the Old German Bühl, which is like a dent, but it also can mean a hump. Okay, so it's a big swelling sore, right? And these Egyptians, they had these boils or blains, and the children of Israel didn't. And then the hail, where God made again a difference between the Egyptians and the Israelites, right? The hail fell on them, not on the Israelites. And then the locusts that were through it, all the land, okay? And then darkness. Darkness doesn't sound so bad, but compared, added on to everything else, it makes things worse. And then the death of the firstborn again, where everybody that didn't do the things that God told them, about putting blood in the doorposts and so on, their firstborn child died. These same people, they saw all these things happening, and that God didn't let their firstborn child die, but yet when they see the Egyptians coming and they're up against the Red Sea, they got nowhere to run, they don't trust in the Lord. They're not being grateful. They're saying, "Wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us to carry us forth out of Egypt?" Why did you bring us out of Egypt? That's not a very smart thing to say. God delivered you, and you're going to say, "Why did you deliver us?" That's we got saved. Now we're getting persecution from, name the alphabet people or whoever, some ungodly people. We get a little bit of persecution, but why did we get saved? Or why are these things happening to us? No, let's be grateful that we're saved. These people were physically saved from Egypt, and they're starting to complain about it. And if that was the only time, that would be enough already. But look at chapter 15. We'll go through a few more of these. Exodus 15:22. So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea. So the Egyptians wound up drowning. So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea, and they went out in the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. And when they came to Merah, they could not drink of the waters of Merah, for they were bitter. Therefore the name of it was called Merah, and the people murmured against Moses, saying, "What shall we drink?" Okay, so 3 days later, they're at it again. They're murmuring, they're complaining, saying, "What will we drink?" Okay, you can carry barrels of water if you're in a big convoy like that, or containers, but it's only going to last us so and so long. And they had a huge group of people. Now, 3 days, they're thirsty. Don't blame them for being thirsty, but I think God was testing them to see if they had faith that God would deliver them. And in verse 25, he cried unto the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. There he made for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he proved them. See, there it is. He tested them. Proved means he tested them. And said, "If thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and wilt do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians. For I am the Lord that healeth thee." Look at verse 27. And they came to Elim, where were 12 wells of water, and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there by the water. So it doesn't tell us how far that was, but it sounds like the next campsite, they had lots of water. If they would have just had faith a little bit longer, they would have made it to this oasis where there's 12 wells of water and 70 palm trees. That sounds like you're in Hawaii or Florida or something. You have water and it's not freezing cold. It sounds like it's a good place to camp. But they had to complain. So often, especially children, if they just wait a little bit longer instead of complaining, you get what you need or what you want, right? And what you need is not always what you want. So you learn that as you get older. Let's keep going. Exodus 16. Verse 1. They took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month, after their departing out of the land of Egypt. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. So here we go again. And the children of Israel said unto them, Would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full. For you have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. And then said the Lord unto Moses, Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no. Just a little ways from that Elim, from that oasis, and they're complaining again about being hungry. It was not like all excited, I wonder how God's going to deliver us this time. It's complaining, okay? And God delivers us. In the Bible it talks about He's never seen the righteous forsaken. He's never seen them without water or without bread. Okay? Doesn't mean we're going to have filet mignon and shrimp, but we're going to have food to eat. And sometimes I think today we don't even know what it means to get hungry. Okay? We got to wait an hour extra for supper or something, and sometimes we think we're hungry. But hunger, like a lot of people in the world have, we have no idea what that feels like. So, and God was going to give them manna, but they were complaining. They used to sit by the flesh pots. So I guess they had pots where they're boiling meat, and where they had bread to the full. Okay, here they're complaining about it. Let's look at another instance here in chapter 17. Exodus 17:1. And all the congregation of the children of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin after their journeys, according to the command of the Lord, and pitched in Rephidim. And there was no water for the people to drink. Wherefore the people did chide with Moses, and said, Give us water that we may drink. And Moses said unto them, Why chide ye with me? Wherefore do ye tempt the Lord? So he's warning them. You're tempting the Lord. Okay? And the people thirsted there for water, and the people murmured against Moses, and said, Wherefore is this that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt, to kill us and our children and our cattle with thirst? It's like, I don't know, Moses must have been a very patient guy. He would have said, go, whoever wants to go, go. We'll just take the people that want to come. But over and over again, they're complaining about water, they're complaining about food, they're complaining about the Egyptians coming, and they forget how bad they had it before. Because they did have it bad. They were so bad they're crying to God to deliver them. God finally delivers them, and then complain, murmur. And it's just like, they can't just be patient and be excited. Like, this is, maybe they didn't realize how historic this event was, that God delivered them in this fashion. But you think after Merah and then Elim, they would have, okay, well maybe we just need to wait a little bit longer, and then God will deliver us. But the people complain. Let's turn to Numbers. Numbers 11. Numbers chapter 11. So, and it's easy for us to look down our nose at the Israelites at that time, but we've got to examine ourselves and see how often we do this when we complain, even though we have already had better than what we used to, or we have it better than other people do. Numbers 11, verse 1. And when the people complained, it displeased the Lord. And the Lord heard it, and his anger was kindled. And the fire of the Lord burnt among them, and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. And the people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire was quenched. And he called the name of the place Taberah, because the fire of the Lord burnt among them. And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a lusting, and the children of Israel also wept again, and said, Who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now our soul is dried away. There's nothing at all beside this manna before our eyes. They want some variety. They want the foods that they're used to. And so a lot of these foods, I mean, they're all good foods, okay? Even cucumbers, they are edible. But fish, cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic, they were getting manna day after day. Instead of just being thankful that they were being fed, all they had to do was go gather it off the ground, okay? They could eat it, or they could grind it to bread, whatever they want to do. Instead, they're complaining about their food, okay? And this is something that's very common among children, right? That they don't like it. I don't like it, right? Well, eat it anyway. You didn't have to work for it. Just eat it. Your parents provided it for you, okay? And God provided this manna for the children of Israel. We've got to be grateful, okay? Grateful for our food. Grateful that we're not starving to death. And instead, we complain to our parents. And I'm not saying I never did this. I'm probably less of a picky eater than a lot of people, but I probably complain sometimes too. And we've got to have this grateful attitude of the things that God has provided for us. Let's look down at verse 31. And there went forth a wind from the Lord and brought quails from the sea, and let them fall by the camp, as it were a day's journey on this side, and as it were a day's journey on the other side, round about the camp, and as it were 2 cubits high upon the face of the earth. So, a whole, as far as you could walk any which way, there's 3 feet of quails. Like 3 feet is probably about that high. Okay? Just imagine, like, you'd have to climb over piles. Well, I guess you start close by and work your way out. That's how deep the quail were. Like, you grab one, slit its throat, or wring its neck, or whatever, put it in a container, grab another one. And it's not like you just gathered, a little bit for that day or whatever. Look at verse 32. And the people stood up all that day and all that night and all the next day, and they gathered the quails. It doesn't take you that long if they're 3 feet thick to gather enough for food for a day or a couple of days, right? It says, he that gathered, and they gathered the quails, he that gathered at least gathered 10 homers, and they spread them all abroad for themselves round about the camp. And remember, we talked about ephah and baths. And remember, there's 10 ephahs in a homer. And an ephah was about 2 1/4 gallons. So an homer is about 22.5 gallons. It says the least of them gathered 10 of those. That's 225 gallons of quail that they gathered. Like, they didn't have freezers. I guess maybe they could have smoked them. I don't know. But you could tell they were greedy and they wanted this meat. They were complaining for meat, flesh. They wanted flesh. They weren't happy with manna. Look, verse 33. And while the flesh was yet between their teeth, ere it was chewed, the wrath of the Lord was kindled against the people, and the Lord smote the people with a very great plague. And he called the name of that place Kibroth Hattaavah, because there they buried the people that lusted. And the people journeyed from Kibroth Hattaavah to Hazeroth and abode at Hazeroth. So, these people weren't happy with the food they had. And just a moment ago I talked about children, how ungrateful children can sometimes be. And you gotta be careful, okay? Let's say your dad decides to take you to Dairy Queen. I don't want Dairy Queen, I want an AW. Fine, then we'll go home. These people were so ungrateful about the manna. Okay, here's the quail. But then, as soon as they're eating the quail, boom, they start dying, okay? The wrath of God was kindled against these people, and he made them have a great plague because they were being ungrateful. And for me, being ungrateful people, that's one of my big pet peeves. I hate it when people are ungrateful. Like, be thankful for what you have. We have it better than a lot of people do in this world. Let's look at Numbers chapter 13. Numbers 13. Let's start verse 25. Numbers 13:25. And they returned from searching the land after 40 days. And they went and came to Moses and to Aaron and to all the congregation of the children of Israel unto the wilderness of Paran, to Kadesh. and brought back word unto them and unto all the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told them and said, We came unto the land whither thou sentest us, and surely it floweth with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites, and the Jebusites, and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea, and by the coast of Jordan. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses. Like he said, whatever he did, like quiet. He stilled them. And said, Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are able to overcome it. But the men that went up with him said, We be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. Drop down to chapter 14, verse 2. Actually, 14, verse 1. And all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried. And the people wept that night. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron. And the whole congregation said unto them, Would God that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would God we had died in this wilderness? And wherefore hath the Lord brought us unto this land, to fall by the sword, that our wives and our children should be afraid? Were it not better for us to return into Egypt? And they said one to another, Let us make the captain, let us return into Egypt. Look at how ungrateful they're being. They're at the verge of going into the promised land, and they see these big bunches of grapes and all this fruit that people are bringing back, but the people make 10 out of the 12 made the people scared. And they're weeping. And they said, Wherefore hath the Lord brought us unto this land? And you know that this is a picture of making it to heaven, to the promised land, okay? In some ways. And they're just on the edge there, and then they're like, okay, why did you save us from Egypt? Okay? Like, you're almost done your journey through life. And it's like, why did I become a Christian? I don't think a Christian. Well, a Christian would say, why did you make a Christian? But why did I have to suffer? You know, it'd be an ungrateful. We'd be ungrateful. Obviously, I was talking about the children, but adults too. We're ungrateful sometimes, right? Like at our job, maybe. You know, especially you shouldn't be ungrateful to your boss, because that's not the way to get promotion or be in favor with them. And I run a business, and ungrateful employees really, they're like smoke in the eyes. They're very, very much annoying. And I think we're all guilty of this at one point or another, of being ungrateful or murmuring and complaining, especially when we were children. And we should try to remember how good we have it. Count our blessings, like the song said, and instead of counting how half empty our glass is, we should be thankful it's half full. So they're so close, and they go against. And Caleb had a good attitude. Caleb and Joshua, they had a good attitude. And you know, these other people, they wish they had died in the wilderness. Well, they got their wish, because they got to go another 40 years, and then until that generation had passed away, and then the next one at least didn't have that bad attitude, and they got to go in. And we'll see, actually, yeah, and I think it's in Hebrews 3. It says why they didn't enter in. It was because of unbelief. They did not have the belief that God would deliver them. Because if they believed that, they would say, okay, let's go, like Caleb said. Okay, Caleb had that belief. The other ones didn't have that belief. Let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 10 in the New Testament. 1 Corinthians chapter 10. I think we take a lot of things for granted nowadays. Just think of lately, what happened last weekend with the storm. We had it pretty good. At our place, we only lost power for 4 hours. Like especially as warm as it was outside, that's not really bad at all. There's still people without power from last weekend. Okay? And then all these guys that are working in hip waders, trying to get the pole set in water, and of course it's not like that everywhere, working 16-hour days, and we can just sit here and, our lights are already on. We don't have to run our generator, our heat's working, and instead, we'll find something else to complain about, right? We should be thankful we're not like those guys, okay? I mean, yeah, they're getting paid for it, but even still, like, They work 16 hours a day, and you think they get to go to a hotel room? They get to go to like a big gymnasium where they're just caught up, like just like no privacy or nothing. Like some of them were in hotels. I don't know if any are still. And we have it good, is just what I'm trying to say. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 1. Moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant, how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, and were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea. This is talking about them going through the Red Sea. It's a picture of baptism, because they had water on both sides and the cloud above them, so they're immersed. And did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. But with many of them God was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. So God wasn't happy with a lot of them. Why not? Let's keep reading. Verse 6. Now these things were our examples, to the intent we should not lust after evil things, as they also lusted. Neither be ye idolaters, as were some of them, as it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink, and rose up to play. Neither let us commit fornication, as some of them committed, and fell in one day 320,000. So what does this have to do with being ungrateful, being idolaters, or worshiping idols, and committing fornication? This is being unthankful and ungrateful. Okay? Just like when we sin, we're being ungrateful to God. He saved us from our sins. We no longer have to get that punishment in hell. And how are we showing our thanks? By sinning. And of course, we still have our flesh. We're going to sin. But we should try to minimize it as much as possible. And these people here, God had delivered them from Egypt. How do they thank Him? As soon as Moses is gone up in the mountain, well, they make that golden calf and they party and do all sorts of wicked things. And they committed fornication. And 23,000 had to die in one day. Let's look at verse 9. Neither let us tempt Christ, as some of them also tempted and were destroyed of servants. Look at verse 10. Neither murmur ye. What is murmuring? It's grumbling. It's complaining. It's like muttering under your breath. Like, don't have that kind of attitude. Neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmured and were destroyed of the destroyer. Try to think of things in the positive light. Even if bad things are happening to you. Okay? Let's say you're sick. Well, at least your leg's not broken. Or if your leg's broken, at least you still have your leg. It's going to heal eventually. And that we have modern health care in the old days, like Mephibosheth, he was lame forever because he got hurt when he was 5 years old, or however old he was, like Jonathan's son. We have it really good. Even if things are going bad, somebody else probably always has it worse than us. Now look at verse 11. Now all these things happen unto them for ensamples. Okay, like an example. For example. And they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. Wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. So these things in the Old Testament, they're written for us, to warn us not to have bad attitudes. Okay? Not to murmur or complain. They're for our example, that we don't do this stupid complaining and grumbling. And because you might think you're just grumbling against your parents, you're grumbling against your boss. What you're doing is you're grumbling to God. That what God gave you isn't good enough. You're not happy with what God gave you. If you think of it that way, then we should be quiet really quick and be happy. Now, I realize there's a lot of young people here that aren't in the workforce yet, okay? But I think if you've been in the workforce a while, a pretty average wage, I don't know, like I've been in the workforce a long time, but I think a pretty average wage is about $20 an hour. Okay? I don't know. A lot of people make less, or more people are making more. But about $20 an hour is about $40,000 a year. Okay? Now if you're making $30,000 after your taxes, you're making more than 77% of the people in the world. You're in the top 23% of wage earners in the whole world. We're the richest quarter. If you make at least $30,000. Well, you say, well, I don't make quite that much. Okay, well, let's say you make $20,000 after your taxes. You still make more than 2/3 of the people in the world. 68% of the people make less than $20,000. And this is figured if you have 2 adults and 2 children in your family. Obviously, per capita, it divides more if you have, a bigger family. Say you only make $10,000 after taxes. You still made more than 51% of people in the world. The median, like that's the average of incomes in the world, is 9,733. And that's, just think of the average though. There's people that make millions and billions. That brings that average up. Just think of how many people probably make less than $1,000 a year. And of course, $1,000 buys less or more depending where you are. Turn to 1 Timothy 6. So if you think of it that way, then it doesn't sound so bad how we have it, right? I mean, we could be in some area, living in some city that's overpopulated and you can't even get a job. I talked to a guy that was lived in the same house I did when I worked in Verdun. He was from the Philippines, and he said, once you're, and I'm not sure how accurate this is, but this is what he said, once you're 30, you're considered too old to work, because you've got too many people, not enough jobs. Just imagine that 30, you're still in your prime. Here, if you want to work, you can get a job. Sometimes you got to move to get a job, okay? But obviously, there's times when people lay off and it gets slow and so on. But for the most part, if you want a job, you can get a job in Canada. So if you're 1 Timothy 6, when we get there in a little bit, there's an estimated 150 million people in the world that are homeless. We got all of us have houses to live in. All of us have food to eat. There's 815 million people estimated that are undernourished in the world. That's 1 out of every 10 people in the world. And we got enough food that we take too much on our plate and then leave half of it over and dump it in the garbage, okay? And I think those of us that are on a farm at least will feed it to the animals instead of throwing it in the trash. I just hate waste. I think waste is a sign of being ungrateful. So look at 1 Timothy 6:6. It says, "But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us be there with content." You got food, you got clothes to put on, let's be happy with that. Let's be satisfied. Okay? Well, I want to be rich. I want to drive a sports car. Well, look at what happens to those people. Look at verse 9. "But they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition." It doesn't say all that are rich. It says they that will be rich. The ones that want to be rich. Okay, that's your main goal. I want to be rich. And you're always thinking about money. You're going to fall into temptation, a snare. A snare is a trap. And to many foolish and hurtful lusts. "For the love of money," verse 10, "for the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows." So, last Sunday was Canadian Thanksgiving. And a year ago, Canadian Thanksgiving, we were having a meal in Texas at a brother's house there, and that was kind of nice. And this year we had a snowstorm. I think a lot of people didn't have their turkeys and so on. But I'm still thankful just to be alive and have a house to live in and food to eat. Turn to Philippians chapter 2. So I think we need to work on having a thankful attitude. So it's not always something that comes easy, like especially if you're the kind of person that the glass is half empty instead of half full. I think David had a really good attitude. And you look through the Psalms. I just finished reading through the Psalms again. And Psalm after Psalm, he's praising God for the good things that He's done for him. He's praising Him. I'll just read for you Psalm 100. It says, it's a psalm of praise. It says, "Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before His presence with singing. Know ye that the Lord, He is God. It is He that hath made us, and not we ourselves. We are His people, and the sheep of His pasture. Enter into His gates with thanksgiving, and into His courts with praise. Be thankful unto Him, and bless His name. For the Lord is good. His mercy is everlasting, and His truth endureth to all generations." Sounds like David is thankful there, or whoever the psalmist is. And that's how we should be. So if you're there in Philippians chapter 2, let's look at verse 14. Do all things without murmurings and disputings, that you may be blameless and harmless, the sons of God, without rebuke, in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom you shine as the lights in the world. Let's look at chapter 4. Philippians 4, verse 10. But I rejoice in the Lord greatly, that now at the last your care of me hath flourished again, wherein you were also careful, but you lacked opportunity. Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. This is Paul speaking. He's saying he has learned, however it's going with him, to be content. And this is a guy, he got whipped a couple times, 40 lashes saved once, so he got 39 lashes. And so his back was probably all torn up. He got shipwrecked, just about stoned to death. And all sorts of bad things happened to him. And he says he's learned, however it's going, to be content with that. Okay? And we know, at least, especially those of us that have lived a couple of decades, well, it's more than a couple for me, 4 decades, you realize life goes up and it goes down. Okay? You should think of it when it's down, well, you think you hit rock bottom, well, at least there's the only way to go up from here is up. Okay? In 2 Chronicles 32, the story of Hezekiah, and it says, in those days Hezekiah was sick to the death, and prayed unto the Lord, and he spake unto him, and he gave him a sign. But Hezekiah rendered not again according to the benefit done unto him, for his heart was lifted up. Therefore there was wrath upon him, and upon Judah and Jerusalem. So Hezekiah was sick to death. The prophet told him he was dying. He's supposed to set his house in order, and he's sad. Well, it would be sad. You're dying, you leave all your family. Of course, even with that, you can be grateful and content if you're saved. I'll see them again. If, those of them that are saved. But God gave him a sign, and he got to live another 15 years, but he didn't render again according to the benefit. He wasn't grateful enough for what God did for him. And so, I've been preaching about being grateful even if things aren't going good. Well, let's not forget to be grateful when things are going good. Okay? When things are going bad, we should still be grateful, but when things are going good, we should especially be grateful and thankful that God doesn't have wrath on us for being ungrateful or for our heart being lifted up. When we finally get our deliverance like the Egyptians did, the Israelites finally did from Egypt, instead of being grateful that God has delivered them, they start murmuring every time they run out of water or food. Let's be thankful, even good things are going good. Just for an extra little boost of trying to remember to be thankful, so that we don't be compared to the people in Romans 1:21. Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. We don't want to be compared to those reprobates. They weren't thankful. They knew God, and they glorified him not as God, neither were they thankful. We want to be thankful people. We don't want to compare to that. Because being thankful is a commandment. In Colossians 3:14-15 says, and above all these things, put on charity, which is the bond of perfectness, and let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to the which also you are called in one body, and be ye thankful. We should be thankful. And Paul was thankful. And in different parts of his letters, he talks about, let's read Colossians 3:16. It keeps going. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your hearts to the Lord. And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father by him. Okay, so we say whatever you do, do in the name of the Lord Jesus, and give thanks to God and the Father by him, by Jesus Christ. And how does it say? It says, we should let the word of Christ dwell in us richly, and then teach and admonish one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. Sing with grace in your hearts to the Lord. So if we're thankful, let's praise God. Let's lift up our voices to God. And, if things are going really good, you're driving along, sing. Sing praises to God. Doesn't matter. If there's other people around, sing. If you don't want to sing when there's other people around, sing when you're by yourself. Sing in church. But give God thanks. You can give God thanks by singing. You can give God thanks when we pray. When we pray, let's not always, God, please do this. God, please do that. Give me this, give me that. And forget to say thanks. Okay? Yeah. Tell God what you need. We don't have because we don't ask Him. But then be thankful for the things He did give you. And you'd be surprised just by being a little more thankful to your parents how much more willing they would be to do good things for you. And it's the same thing with God. If we give Him thanks, I think He'll be even more willing to bless us. So let's pray.